The auctioneer's voice echoed through the grand ballroom like a death sentence. $10 million. Going once, going twice. I stood on the stage in a borrowed dress, my hands trembling so badly I had to clasp them behind my back. The lights were too bright. I couldn't see the faces in the crowd, just shadows and the occasional glint of jewelry or champagne glasses. My mother was dying. Stage 4 cancer. The experimental treatment cost exactly what I didn't have. Everything. When my best friend Tyler told me about the charity auction, I thought he meant I'd be serving drinks. "You'll go on a few dates with some rich guy," he'd said. "It's for a good cause, and they pay the participants." What he didn't mention was that I'd be standing here like a prize horse while strangers bid on me. Sold. To bidder 73 for $10 million. The room erupted in gasps. 10 million? For me? That was insane. That was impossible. That was exactly 4 times what I needed for my mother's treatment. I squinted past the lights, trying to see who had just bought me. A figure rose from the back of the room, tall and broad-shouldered, moving through the crowd like a shark through water. As he climbed the stage stairs, the light finally caught his face. My heart stopped. Alexander Kane. The Alexander Kane. Tech billionaire. Venture capitalist. The man whose company I'd written a scathing exposé about 2 years ago when I was still a journalist. The article had detailed his ruthless business practices, the startups he'd destroyed, the lives he'd ruined in his climb to the top. He stopped in front of me, his ice-blue eyes holding mine with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Up close, he was even more devastating than his photos. Sharp jawline, dark hair with silver at the temples, expensive suit that probably cost more than my rent. "Miss Rivera," he said, his voice low and smooth. "We meet at last." "You?" I whispered. "Why would you?" He leaned in close, his breath warm against my ear. "Because, Maya, you owe me something far more valuable than $10 million. And now I own you." The penthouse overlooked the entire city, a kingdom of lights sprawling beneath floor-to-ceiling windows. I stood in Alexander's living room, still wearing the auction dress, feeling completely out of place among the modern art and designer furniture. "Sit," Alexander said, pouring 2 glasses of wine. "I'd rather stand." My voice came out stronger than I felt. He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Suit yourself." He handed me a glass anyway, then pulled out a folder from his briefcase. "Let's talk terms." "Terms?" I set the wine down untouched. "You paid $10 million for a few dates. That's the term. That's all there is." "Is it?" He opened the folder, revealing a thick contract. $10 million is now in an escrow account with your mother's treatment center listed as the beneficiary. The money releases when our arrangement concludes. My stomach dropped. "What arrangement?" 6 months, he said calmly. "You'll live here, accompany me to events, play the role of my devoted girlfriend. In return, your mother gets her treatment, and when our time is up, you walk away with an additional $1 million for your trouble." "You can't be serious." "I'm always serious, Maya." He moved closer, and I caught the scent of his cologne. Cedar and something darker. "Your article cost me a $300 million deal. Investors got cold feet. My reputation took a hit. So yes, I'm serious about getting something back from you." "That article was true. Every word." "Was it?" His jaw tightened. "You interviewed 3 disgruntled ex-employees and called it journalism. You never once reached out to me for comment." Shame heated my cheeks because he was right about that part. I'd been young, hungry for the story, and my editor had pushed for publication before Alexander could respond. "I'm not signing that," I said, even as my mind screamed about my mother's bills piling up. Alexander pulled out his phone and showed me a photo. My mother, smiling in her hospital bed last week. "She's a fighter," he said softly. "I did some research. She raised you alone after your father left. Worked 2 jobs to put you through college. She deserves that treatment, don't you think?" Tears burned my eyes. Don't use her against me. I'm not. He set the phone down. I'm offering you a way to save her. All you have to do is pretend to care about me for 6 months. Is your pride really worth more than her life? I grabbed the pen before I could change my mind. The guest room was bigger than my entire apartment. Alexander showed me inside, setting my single suitcase down on the bed. The closet's been stocked, he said. Designer clothes, the right sizes. My assistant is thorough. You had someone investigate my measurements? I asked incredulously. I investigate everything. He moved to the door, then paused. There's one more rule I didn't put in the contract. My pulse quickened. What? No falling in love with me. His expression was unreadable. Women tend to do that, and it complicates things. The arrogance stunned me. Trust me, that won't be a problem. Good. But something flickered across his face. Hurt? Disappointment? It vanished before I could identify it. Breakfast is at 7. Don't be late. He left, closing the door behind him. I sank onto the bed, my hands shaking again. What had I just done? 6 months with a man who hated me, who wanted revenge for an article I'd written in pursuit of truth. I called the hospital. My mother's nurse confirmed that the treatment center had received a deposit and would begin her therapy immediately. My mother was crying with relief in the background. Baby, I don't know how you did this, she said when the nurse handed her the phone. But thank you. Thank you so much. I couldn't tell her the truth. I got a new job, Mom. A really good one. After we hung up, I explored the room. The closet did indeed hold a fortune in designer clothes, all in my size. The bathroom had products I recognized from magazine ads. Everything was perfect and impersonal and suffocating. I found myself standing at the window, looking out at the city lights. Somewhere down there was my old life. My cramped apartment, my freelance writing gigs, my freedom. I traded it all for 6 months in a gilded cage. A knock on the door made me turn. Alexander stood in the doorway, now wearing a t-shirt and sweatpants that somehow made him look more dangerous than the suit. I forgot to mention, he said. We have our first event tomorrow night. The Charitable Foundation Gala. Already. No time to waste. His eyes traveled over me, and I suddenly felt very aware of how the borrowed dress clung to my curves. Get some rest, Maya. Tomorrow, the whole world will believe you're mine. The way he said mine sent an unwanted shiver down my spine. The dress Alexander's stylist chose was stunning. A deep emerald gown that hugged my body before flowing to the floor. I barely recognized myself in the mirror. You look perfect, the stylist said, adjusting my hair one last time. Perfect. Like a doll. Like property. Alexander was waiting in the living room, devastating in a black tuxedo. His eyes widened slightly when he saw me, a crack in his usual composure. You clean up well, he said. So do you. I hated that I meant it. In the limousine, he briefed me. My business partner Lucas will be there with his wife. My ex-girlfriend Isabel. Ignore anything she says. And my mother. Your mother. I hadn't prepared for that. She's harmless. Mostly. He adjusted his cufflinks. Just smile and let me do the talking. The gala was exactly what I expected. Crystal chandeliers, champagne, people wearing jewelry worth more than houses. Alexander's hand settled on the small of my back as we entered, and cameras flashed immediately. Mr. Kane, who's your date? Alexander, over here. He pulled me close, his lips brushing my ear as he whispered, Smile like you love me. I did, and more cameras flashed. His hands stayed on my back, possessive and warm through the thin fabric. Inside, a beautiful woman with platinum hair approached. Her smile was venomous. Alexander, darling, she purred. I see you've brought someone. Isabel. Alexander's voice cooled. This is Maya Rivera, my girlfriend. Isabel's eyes raked over me. How unexpected. I didn't know you were dating. It's new, I said sweetly. Very new. How did you meet? Alexander pulled me even closer. I bought her at an auction. Isabel's laugh was like breaking glass. How romantic. Alexander always did like to collect things. She leaned in conspiratorially. A word of advice, dear. Don't get too comfortable. His toys never last. She glided away, leaving me stinging. Don't let her get to you, Alexander murmured. She's bitter because I broke things off. Did you collect her too? His jaw tightened. Isabel and I were engaged once. She cheated with my business partner. Now, shall we dance? Before I could answer, he led me to the dance floor. His hand found my waist, the other taking mine, and suddenly we were moving together. He was an incredible dancer, leading me effortlessly through the waltz. You're full of surprises, I admitted. So are you. His eyes met mine. That article you wrote, you mentioned I destroyed a startup called BrightTech. Did you know the founder was embezzling from his employees? I stumbled slightly. What? I didn't destroy them. I saved 20 jobs and exposed fraud. But that didn't fit your narrative, did it? The song ended, but we stood frozen, his words hanging between us like a challenge. 2 weeks passed in a blur of events, dinners, and carefully orchestrated public appearances. Alexander and I developed a rhythm, civil in public, distant in private. We lived like elegant strangers sharing an address. Until the night everything shifted. I woke to screaming. Heart pounding, I threw off my covers and ran down the hall to Alexander's room. The screams were coming from behind his door, raw, agonized sounds that made my blood run cold. I burst in without knocking. Alexander was tangled in his sheets, thrashing, his face contorted in nightmare. No, please no, Mom, don't. Alexander! I rushed to the bed, grabbing his shoulders. Wake up! His eyes flew open, wild and unseeing. His hand caught my wrist in a bruising grip before recognition flooded his face. Maya! His voice was hoarse, broken. You were having a nightmare. He released me, sitting up and running shaking hands through his hair. In the dim light from the hallway, I could see sweat glistening on his chest, the rapid rise and fall of his breathing. I'm fine, he said automatically. You can go. But his hands were still trembling. Without thinking, I sat on the edge of his bed. Who did you lose? His head snapped up. What? You called for your mom. But you mentioned her being at the gala. So who? My sister. The words came out flat, emotionless, which somehow made them worse. Sophia. She died when I was 23. My heart ached. I'm so sorry. Car accident. Drunk driver. He stared at his hands. I was supposed to pick her up that night. I was working late, closing a deal. I told her to take a cab. His voice cracked. She died because I chose work over her. Now I understood the ice, the control, the desperate need to manage everything. It wasn't your fault, I said softly. Wasn't it? He finally looked at me, and the pain in his eyes was devastating. I've built an empire, Maya. I'm worth billions. But I couldn't save the one person who actually mattered. Before I could stop myself, I reached out and took his hand. He stared at our joined hands like he'd forgotten what human touch felt like. Thank you, he whispered, for coming, for not running. Get some sleep. I moved to stand, but his grip tightened. Stay, please, just until I fall asleep. So I stayed, sitting beside him in the dark, holding the hand of a man I was supposed to hate, feeling the walls between us begin to crack. After that night, everything changed. Alexander started joining me for coffee in the mornings. He asked about my writing, actually listened when I talked about the novel I'd abandoned 2 years ago. He laughed at my jokes, a real laugh, not the polished one he used at events. And God help me, I started looking forward to seeing him. Tell me about BrightTech, I said one evening over dinner. The truth. He set down his wine. The founder, Tom Brighton, was a friend from college. Brilliant engineer, terrible businessman. When I invested, I discovered he was taking investor money for personal expenses, cars, a beach house, trips. His employees hadn't been paid in months. Why didn't you go public with that? Because Tom had a daughter, 5 years old. I didn't want her growing up reading about her father's crimes. Alexander met my eyes. I gave him a choice: resign quietly and get help or face prosecution. He chose resignation. I restructured the company, saved the jobs, and took the public relations hit. Shame burned through me. I got it wrong. You got part of it wrong, he corrected gently. I am ruthless in business. I have destroyed companies that deserved it. But that article painted me as someone who enjoys the destruction. That part hurt because my sister used to say the same thing. She thought you were ruthless? She thought I was becoming someone she didn't recognize. She died before I could prove her wrong. His voice roughened. Before I could prove I was still the brother who taught her to ride a bike and scared away her bad dates. I reached across the table, covering his hand with mine. She knew. I promise you she knew. He turned his hand over, threading our fingers together. The touch sent electricity up my arm. This is dangerous, he murmured. What is? You, me, this. But he didn't let go. It's not in the contract. Maybe some things shouldn't be. He stood abruptly, pulling me up with him. For a heart-stopping moment, we stood inches apart, his blue eyes dark with something that made my breath catch. I should let you go, he said. You should. But neither of us moved. His hand came up to cup my cheek, thumb brushing my lower lip. My eyes fluttered closed. Maya, he breathed, and then his phone rang. The spell broke. He stepped back, answering with a curt, "What?" His expression changed, hardening into something terrible. When? How bad? A pause. I'll be there in 20 minutes. He hung up, already moving toward the door. I have to go. Business emergency. Alexander, what? But he was gone, leaving me standing alone in the dining room, my lips still tingling from a kiss that never happened. He didn't come home that night, or the next. Alexander finally returned on the third day, looking like he hadn't slept since he left. His suit was rumpled, his jaw shadowed with stubble. Where have you been? I demanded. I was worried. Why would you be worried? He brushed past me, heading for his office. It's not like this is real. The word stung like a slap. Alexander, I need to work. He closed the office door in my face. Something was wrong. This wasn't just business stress. This was the ice walls rebuilding thicker than before. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again. Leave me alone, Maya. No. I opened the door. He stood at his desk, hands braced on the surface, head bowed. Papers were scattered everywhere. On his computer screen, I glimpsed a news article headline, Kane Industries under investigation for... He slammed the laptop shut. Get out. Not until you tell me what's happening. What's happening is that someone leaked false information to the SEC claiming I've been involved in insider trading. His voice was bitter. It's Isabel. Her new boyfriend is on the regulatory committee. She's trying to destroy me the way she thinks I destroyed her. That's insane. You can fight this. Can I? He laughed harshly. I'm already the villain in everyone's story, Maya, including yours. This just confirms what people already believe. Stop it. I moved around the desk. You're not a villain, aren't I? He finally looked at me, and the anguish in his eyes broke my heart. I bought you. I blackmailed you into 6 months of pretending to care about me because my ego was bruised. What does that make me? Human, I said. It makes you human. I'm going to lose everything. His voice cracked. The company, my reputation, the foundation Sophia and I created before she died. Isabel knows exactly where to strike. Before I could think better of it, I closed the distance between us and wrapped my arms around him. He went rigid with shock. What are you doing? Hugging you. Shut up and accept it. For a moment, nothing. Then his arms came around me, crushing me against his chest as if I were the only thing keeping him standing. His face buried in my hair. I'm scared, he whispered. For the first time since Sophia died, I actually have something to lose, and I'm terrified. I pulled back enough to see his face. What do you have to lose? His hand came up, cradling my cheek. You, whatever this is becoming. Alexander. I know it's not in the contract. I know I have no right. But somewhere between the auction and now, you stopped being revenge and started being. He swallowed hard. Everything. My heart hammered. You said not to fall in love with you. I'm a hypocrite. His thumb traced my cheekbone. Because I'm falling for you, and I don't know how to stop. I should have pulled away. This violated everything we'd agreed to. But instead, I rose on my toes and kissed him. Alexander kissed me back like a drowning man finding air. His hands tangled in my hair, my back pressed against his desk as the kiss deepened into something desperate and consuming. Maya, he groaned against my lips. We shouldn't. I know. I pulled him closer anyway. I don't care. He lifted me onto the desk, stepping between my legs, and I forgot why this was supposed to be wrong. Everything fell away except the feel of his mouth on mine, his hands mapping my body, the sound of his ragged breathing mixing with mine. Tell me to stop, he said, pressing kisses down my neck. Tell me this is just the contract. It stopped being the contract weeks ago. I tugged his shirt free. Don't you dare stop. He carried me to his bedroom, kicking the door shut behind us. We undressed each other with trembling hands, years of loneliness and walls crumbling between us. When we finally came together, it felt like coming home. He was gentle and fierce by turns, whispering my name like a prayer, and I held him like I'd never let go. Afterwards, we lay tangled together, his fingers tracing patterns on my bare shoulder. I need to tell you something, he said quietly. What? The $10 million I paid at the auction. I didn't do it for revenge. He propped himself up on one elbow, meeting my eyes. I did it because I'd been following your work since the article. Everything you wrote afterwards, the pieces on corporate corruption, the investigation into pharmaceutical fraud. You were brilliant and fearless, and I couldn't stop thinking about you. I stared at him. You're lying. I'm not. He smiled sadly. When Tyler told me you'd be at that auction, that you were desperate to save your mother, I saw a chance to meet you, to maybe prove I wasn't the monster you'd written about. So the contract was me being a coward. He brushed hair from my face. I didn't know how to just ask you out, how to convince you to give me a chance. So I created a situation where you couldn't say no. Anger flared. That's still manipulation, Alexander. I know. He didn't look away. I know, and I'm sorry. If I could go back, I'd do it differently. I'd find another way to help your mother and then ask if you'd have coffee with me. But I can't go back. All I can do is tell you the truth now. I should have been furious. I should have left. But all I felt was a strange kind of relief because the truth, messy as it was finally between us. The article, I said. I should have contacted you. I should have gotten your side. And I should have understood why you didn't trust me enough to. He kissed my forehead. We're both guilty of making assumptions. I curled into his chest, listening to his heartbeat. Where do we go from here? I don't know, he admitted. But I want to find out. If you'll give me a real chance. Not because of a contract, but because you want to. Outside, dawn was breaking over the city. A new day. A fresh start. Ask me, I whispered. What? I pulled back to look at him. Ask me what you should have asked at the beginning. Understanding dawned in his eyes. He took my hand, suddenly looking nervous. Billionaire Alexander Kane. Nervous. Maya Rivera, would you have dinner with me? A real date, no contracts, no obligations. Just you and me figuring out if this is real. I smiled. Yes. The next 3 weeks were a beautiful dream and a waking nightmare. By day, Alexander fought Isabel's accusations with an army of lawyers. The investigation consumed him, stress carving new lines around his eyes. I helped however I could, using my journalism skills to dig into Isabel's claims, finding inconsistencies, tracking down witnesses. By night, we found refuge in each other. He taught me to cook his sister's favorite pasta. I read him chapters from the novel I'd started writing again. We made love slowly, desperately, like people who knew time might be running out. I got an email from my old editor. I told him one evening. He wants me to write about the investigation. About us. Alexander tensed. What did you say? I said no. I took his hand. Some stories aren't mine to tell. Thank you. He kissed my knuckles. Though part of me wonders if the truth from you might actually help. You're the journalist who exposed me. If you defended me now. I'm not objective anymore, I admitted. I'm in love with you. The words hung in the air. We hadn't said them yet, too afraid of jinxing this fragile thing between us. Alexander pulled me onto his lap, his eyes suspiciously bright. Say it again. I love you. I cupped his face. I love you so much it terrifies me. I love you too. He kissed me deeply. I love you, and I'm going to fix this. I'm going to clear my name, and then I'm going to spend the rest of my life proving I deserve you. But the next day, everything fell apart. I was at the hospital visiting my mother. Her treatment was working. She was in remission when Tyler called. Turn on the news, he said urgently. Now. I found a TV in the waiting room. The headline made my blood run cold. Kane Industries CEO arrested for fraud and insider trading. They were showing footage of Alexander being led from his office in handcuffs. His face was expressionless, but I knew him now. I could see the fear beneath the mask. I ran. The penthouse was swarming with federal agents when I arrived. They were boxing up documents, seizing computers. Alexander's lawyer, James, stood in the living room looking shell-shocked. Where is he? I demanded. Federal holding. They're arraigning him tomorrow. James ran a hand over his face. Isabel had help. Someone high up who wanted to see Alexander fall. The charges are serious, Maya. If convicted, he's looking at 20 years. 20 years. The room spun. There has to be something we can do. There is. James handed me a folder. But you're not going to like it. Inside was a draft article, my byline, my words, detailing everything about our arrangement. The contract, the auction, how Alexander had essentially bought me. Isabel's team plans to leak this tomorrow, James explained. They'll paint Alexander as someone who buys people, who thinks money puts him above the law. It'll destroy any chance he has of a fair trial. But if I release it first, I said slowly, if I control the narrative, you tell the whole truth. The contract, yes, but also why you signed it. Your mother, his sister, how he actually is versus who they claim he is. James met my eyes. It might save him, or it might ruin you both. I took the folder. Set up the interview. The interview aired 3 days later. I sat across from my old editor, the cameras rolling, and told everything. Yes, Alexander Kane paid $10 million for me at a charity auction. Yes, we had a contract. But here's what the contract didn't include. His nightmares about his dead sister. The way he anonymously funds scholarships for low-income students. How he cried when my mother's treatment started working. I showed the emails I'd found. Evidence that Isabel and a corrupt SEC official had fabricated the insider trading charges because Alexander had refused to cover up the official's own misconduct years ago. Alexander Kane isn't perfect, I said, looking directly into the camera. He's controlling and stubborn, and yes, he bought me at an auction. But he did it because he was too scared to just ask me out. Because under all that ice, he's just a man who lost his sister and didn't know how to let anyone close again. I pulled out one final document. This is the contract we signed. I'm releasing it in full because transparency matters. And this, I held up another paper, is the contract I wish we'd signed instead. The one I'm offering him now. On screen, they showed the new contract. It was simple. I, Maya Rivera, agree to love Alexander Kane for as long as he'll let me. No money. No time limit. No conditions except honesty and trust. This contract can only be broken if either party stops choosing each other every single day. Alexander, I said to the camera, knowing he'd see this in his cell. I choose you, today and every day. Come home to me. The charges were dropped within a week. The investigation revealed Isabel and the SEC officials' conspiracy. Alexander walked out of federal holding looking exhausted and beautiful and alive. I was waiting outside. He stopped when he saw me, like he couldn't believe I was real. Then he was running, and I was running, and we collided in the middle of the sidewalk in a tangle of arms and kisses and tears. You stayed, he choked out. After everything, you stayed. I told you. I choose you. I held his face in my hands. Every single day. Marry me, he said. I laughed through my tears. We haven't even had our first real date yet. Then marry me after the date. Or after 100 dates. I don't care. He kissed me again. I'm not letting you go, Maya. Not ever. Good. Because I signed a contract. 6 months later, we stood in a small ceremony surrounded by friends and family. My mother, healthy and radiant, cried through the entire wedding. Tyler was Alexander's best man. And on the altar, before we exchanged vows, Alexander pulled out a piece of paper. A new contract, he announced. One that supersedes all previous agreements. He read it aloud. I, Alexander Kane, promise to choose Maya Rivera every single day. To be honest even when it's hard. To remember that love isn't about ownership, it's about partnership. To never buy her at an auction again, but to earn her trust every single day. This contract expires only when the stars burn out. I was crying now. I didn't prepare anything that good. Just say yes. Yes. I kissed him as everyone cheered. Yes to everything. We honeymooned in a cabin in the mountains. No phones, no business, just us. On our last night, lying under the stars, Alexander pulled me close. Do you ever regret it? He asked. The auction, the contract, all of it? I thought about that night 6 months ago. Standing on a stage, terrified and desperate. I thought about the journey from that moment to this one. All the pain and joy and fear and love. No, I said honestly, because it brought me to you, and you're worth $10 million and then some. He laughed, the sound rich and free. You're worth infinitely more. So are you, I whispered. So are you. Above us, the stars burned bright. Witness to a love that had started with a transaction and became something that could never be bought or sold or contained in any contract. Just two broken people who learned how to be whole together. And that was priceless. If Maya and Alexander's journey touched your heart, subscribe for more unforgettable romance stories. Like if you believed in their love, comment your favorite moment. See you in the next story.